Really great to see so many friendly faces and familiar faces in the room, and some not so familiar faces. It's always great to see some new people coming in. This is our second Solidarity Network public event, and we're delighted. Ours, as in yours, all of us together, it's our second event because the Solidarity Network is a very loose network. It's a connection of people who are interested in the topics that are around civil society and justice. And it began back in, I'm going to say 2024, but it could be 23, at the EAPN, the European Anti-Poverty Network's AGM, where there was a presentation by a CDP programme worker who was talking about the work that they're doing about challenging racism and tackling the rise of the far right. And people in the room were very, very impressed by the very basic community development that this person was doing. And from that, a dialogue started about, well, why did that seem so unusual when we're all supposed to be doing this work, or we're all working as there? Why does that seem to be something that was unusual or hard to do? And we began by inviting a few people together to have a dialogue about what were some of the barriers to doing that work. And from that group grew and grew. And we created our first paper, which was Towards a Civil Society for Transformative Change, which began by looking at what do we see as the barriers for civil society in trying to address inequality and trying to look at change. And in that we named some values and some ideas about how we might bring that forward. And we had our first event last year with a big public event to invite people, and it's been we invite people to come along. And the contact list that you saw me registering you is our contact list of anybody who wants to be part of this dialogue and discussion. And from last year's event, we had a very good, well-attended event where we had a dialogue, we discussed the civil society, asked people, did they agree with those positions? Were they the barriers that people were experiencing across the country? Were the values that we had articulated, the values that you would like to see? And from that day, a number of pieces of action, the groups, we decided to do pieces of work, which were to create 3 new papers, which are going to be further discussed today. One about a manifesto to the external organisations, to the state. What are we asking as civil society of the state? To be a bit more looking at the values, what are the values of civil society? What can we all row in behind and say, this is what civil society human rights work looks like from our perspective. And the third one was, a big issue that came up at that meeting was, how do you create these spaces and dialogue at local level? So we have a paper that looks at how do you create dialogue at local level. And each of that time, it's been about organically growing, inviting more and more people to come along and be part of this discussion. And hence today there are some new people in the room. So today you're going to hear those papers be discussed. We're going to have a setup which is going to have people doing provocations to stir our discussion, and then we're going to have a discussion at each table. And you will be asked to move around from table to table so you get to talk about the 3 issues. So you're very welcome.